You're now watching the Danny Mac Podcast on the BetRivers Network.
And welcome back to the Danny Mac Podcast on the BetRivers Podcast Network. I'm Dan McNeil. Glad you're with me today. As you might guess, I continue to count down to training camp. The Bears are going to be on Hard Knocks. In case you've left the planet, that was last week's big news. And I want to keep talking about the arrival of Caleb Williams and do it with a guy who went to USC and also was called upon by the Chicago Bears in the first round. It was a few years ago when they tabbed Mark Carrier out of Lake Charles, Louisiana as their number one pick, and he responded by intercepting 10 passes in his rookie year. Mark Carrier, how you doing, man? It's good to see you.
Hello, Dan. It's good to see you. Long time.
It has been a few years, and we're brought back together because Trojan Pride is back in Chicago, and I can see the smile on your face. Have you seen a ton of Caleb Williams? What can you tell our listeners about the USC Heisman Trophy winner 2 years ago coming here to be the new Messiah?
Well, again, yes, just working in a Notre Dame world here in Chicago and Loyola Academy, having SC blood around here more makes me feel much better. But I got to see more of him his Heisman Trophy year than I did this past. I saw every game they played, obviously on television, but in person I got to see a couple games. And this kid he's special. He was definitely special in college. Especially when he had, the Jordan, the receiver from the Minnesota Vikings, who was a top-notch receiver, better offensive line. I got to agree with what Ryan Pohl and Ian Cunningham and the guys have done to help him around him. As you know, Dan, the new game plan for an NFL team is to hit big on a young quarterback and have the pieces around him, pay for the pieces around him while he's on his rookie year deal to see how far you can get, to get to a championship game. Oh, excuse me, so all right, and then and so they've got that, and they bought all these good receivers. They upgraded the offensive line. I love their defense. I think they're still going to maybe make one more piece, try to add one more piece on defense on the defensive line, but they've got a foundation set, and this kid can adapt, which he's shown. I mean, remember he went to Oklahoma, was on the bench in 1 year, but in the middle of the season came in and led them to a 10-win season. Then he goes to USC, again adapts, has players around him, wins the Heisman Trophy. The next year wasn't as good, but he still put up, everybody, talk about what happened. Well, he still put up pretty dang good numbers. He just didn't have a defense who support him here and there. So I think the foundation's there. I've not studied him to see how it would adapt to the NFL level, but what you've seen so far, you got to hey, the potential's there.
So far, I love everything I've heard that's come out of his mouth, too, Mark. He seems to be a very mature dude, and really, I thought endeared himself to Bears fans that Friday afternoon when he spoke at the Combine, when he put to rest all this stuff that I won't come to the Bears that had surfaced. It seems like that was 10 years ago now, but he seems like he comes in with a ton of maturity and he can handle the big stage. At least that's my take on it. Is that yours also?
Yeah, right now you've kind of seen it. Like I said, this guy, he was a 5-star recruit. He went to Oklahoma, which was pretty good program as a freshman and did well there. Then obviously going to Southern Cal, just let alone the football, but just the atmosphere in and around that world there, and he handled it with really good respectability, with grace, and with leadership and maturity. And you heard these things and all these, and of course I'm getting it all from my Notre Dame fans and everybody, my Big Ten fans in and around the school here about what are you talking about? He wants ownership, and I said until I hear it from his mouth, I don't take any stock in it. And then when you finally heard the young man speak, he didn't say anything like that. He tried to put some of that stuff to rest. He's done a good job, and I've talked to people in and around the program who I know, who I trust, and say, Mark, he's one of the best teammates you could have, and I haven't heard anything disqualify that. So I'm excited for the kid. I want him to do well because he's a USC brother, and I always want. And then he's a Bear now, so I really want him to do well. And I think this more so not just for him, but for the city. I need him. We need him to do well.
This is the third time in 7 years the Bears have looked to a quarterback in the first round, and you gotta keep doing it. I mean, does it absolutely astonish you that we're now what 35 years almost past when you were picked by the Bears, and the organization is still chasing Sid Luckman, for crying out loud?
Well, it's just the reality of the game. I mean, everybody wants to get, and the way the game has changed now, and again with the free agency, and as well as with the salary cap, you can go get it. You're okay to not okay, but it's not as harsh on your organization if you're trying to hit on a quarterback early. Whereas years past, you take a quarterback, man, you half your salary was put on that quarterback, and yet he hadn't played a down the ball in the NFL, and so now you're strapped trying to hope that you hit that. If you didn't, then you've got to gut your team to keep up with the salary cap. But now the way they do it, there's ways to do it with a young quarterback on his rookie contract. That's how the CPA has kind of worked itself out. The owners have done it. So you got it. That's you and I both know that's the number one position in the NFL that you got to have. You got to hope you hit on it. It's always a crapshoot. We say that, but when you hit on one, a la the Kansas City Chiefs are the measuring stick for everybody now. They hit on Patrick Mahomes, who didn't start. He replaced a playoff quarterback, but yet now they've got 3 Super Bowls under their wings and still going. So you can see the stakes is high, but you have to go high to win big in this league.
What's it like to come to Chicago as a young man? I mean, rewind, Mark, when you got here in 1990 and the Bears were still riding the crest of that 85 team, and Ditka was still entrenched, and a lot of Hall of Fame talent around you as a young player. What's it like to come to a big stage like Chicago when you're a 21 or 22-year-old guy?
It can it's exciting, but it can also be intimidating. And for me, luckily, coming from Long Beach Poly and playing in a big program, and then playing at USC, which is in downtown Los Angeles, so at least I was familiar and had a comfort zone of being in that spotlight a little bit. But then also, but coming to Chicago at that time, yes, the '85 Bears team, even in 1990, still loomed big. Heck, it still looms big 30 years later in this city. But I had a lot of those Hall of Fame players there, and the expectations were still high with that group. And it was a lot I had to learn, kind of a crash course to stay with that group, to be accountable for those players, for those Hall of Fame guys, and it's a pressure. But luckily, I had good teachers. I had Ron Rivera, Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Ron Rivera, Chico Rivera, Sean Gale. I mean, those guys helped me get there. They didn't make it easy, but they did help me once they realized I was worthy of their tutelage to be part of this team. But it took a time for them to accept me, that I had to go through the sense of, for less or better term, hard knocks of understanding they could trust me. And that's what you have to do. You just kind of have to block the noise. You got to have a good support system, which I did. My mom and 2 sisters did a great job of preparing me for anything. But you've got to have a good support system around you, and you got to block out the noise and just focus on the team. Don't worry about the everything will take care of itself outside of the walls at Hallis Hall. You just got to make sure you're prepared inside.
Sean Gale is a name that consistently comes up when I talk with Bears of the 80s and 90s, yet he never was really given a ton of attention other than inside that locker room. I mean, he was a tough little guy too. I mean, he would stick a man and make him like it. Do you still have a relationship with Sean, and what kind of a role did he play in your development?
He played a. There was 2 people. There was a few people. I named a few already, but there's 2 people who really played a big role in helping me get acclimated and mature and play and learn how to play the game, to be a professional. The late Dave Dorson was one who I kind of came in and replaced, but the short time that I was in camp with Dave Dorson, Dave treated me well and helped me, get adapted and helped me learn the system and he knew what I was there for and knew why I was there, but it did not stop him from really helping me try to learn. And then Sean initially wasn't all excited because he got moved from free safety to strong safety, which he liked a lot, and replaced Dorson got replaced. We had a relationship with, and here comes this young buck taking his spot, moving him down. But again, once I earned his trust, he was vastly big part of my career, especially that rookie year, especially going into the season when I was tapped starter, and Sean's like, "All right, you know the playbook, you know it, you understand it. Now, forget it because you got to be able to adjust on the fly because those X's and O's that you learn, they don't move. When we go out in the field, they move and they move fast, and you got to be ready to adjust to that and be ready to see things and adjust as you see it and trust it and believe it that we will back you up if once you know what's going on." And Sean was a big part of me helping me adapt, learn. And the other part that I owe Sean Gale a lot to is learning how to be a professional outside of football. He kind of took me under his wings and tried to introduce me to a lot of people, important people in society, and how to enjoy it, but yet understand the pits and falls that you got to stay away from. So I owe Sean a lot.
Let's talk about this group today. The Bears secondary is deep, and my goodness, they're young. Jalen Johnson, he's the old man at 24. I think it'd be 25 when the season starts, but Brisker and Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, they are really loaded. And you know what I like about some of these guys, Mark, is they're physical. And you don't see that very often from DBs today. Everybody says, well, you get flagged. You know what? It's worth it if you get flagged once in a while. But I especially like Kyler Gordon. Have you seen a lot of the Bears secondary, and what do you like from it?
I saw a lot last year. They've had some changeover with this year, but I like a lot of the group they got. I think what they are, they're very sound. Obviously, Johnson, just got the big payday and deservingly so. But what I like about it is just like you kind of hit on it. It's a very physical group. What I like, a big thing I like about them is that and under Eberflus defense, which is his specialty, they don't make many mistakes. They're good tacklers. They're sound. They're smart. They get after you. They're not afraid to get after you. They'll challenge you. I just think that the group they put together, and don't get me wrong, is tied to that front. You can be as great a player as you want to be, but if you don't have a solid front in front of you, you can be covered. You got to cover longer than you want to, and it doesn't work that way. But I just like this group is that they've got a good mixture of cover guys, tough guys, athletic guys, smart. Willing to get after it. I just think it's a really good group that blends in with the front seven.
The Texans made the playoffs last year with a rookie quarterback. Why not the Bears this year? It's a tough division, Mark, but what's your expectation of this team in Caleb's first year?
Well, I mean, they won 9 games, last year, and they upgraded the whole team. Obviously, they switched out on quarterback. That's still the number one thing that you have to, work with, but I think they've upgraded the team. I think you're right. The division's gotten better. Obviously, with Detroit, Love and Green Bay, they're not going anywhere. Minnesota, you got to wonder what's going on there a little bit, but they've got talent there. But I think the division, you're right, is tough. But I think with adding you can add more teams to the playoff. I think they got a chance to win 9 and 10 games with a rookie quarterback and get into the playoffs and make it possible. I think I think playoffs is playoff or bust. I think you don't bring in all these players, even with the rookie quarterback, not thinking you have a chance to make the playoffs.
Mark, thanks a bunch for the visit. I know a lot of my listeners who haven't heard from you in a while enjoyed it enormously as well. Take care, and I'll be in touch. Go USC and go Caleb, right?
Right. Fight on. Go Trojans.
Mark Carrier, the first-round pick from the Bears back in 1990. And what a start to his career. 10 picks in that first season. And unfortunately, the Bears got a taste of the playoffs in his first year or two, but then it was downhill shortly thereafter. I want to thank Randy Merkin for getting the guests for me for these podcasts, and Sam Michael, my executive producer, Shane Warren helping out today as well. Adam Delabit runs the show for the BetRivers Podcast Network. Thank you so very much for listening. Those of you watching on YouTube, thanks to you as well. I'm Danny Mac. See you later.